So you want something a little different. You don't want to play yet another caster or yet another one of the martials that you've already played many, many times. You want to play a monk. Well, you're in luck. Because behind today's secret door, the Warrior of Mercy test drive. So behind today's secret door, the Warrior of Mercy test drive. This is Secret Door, a channel devoted to in-depth discussion about Dungeons and Dragons, and my name is Matt Morich. All right, I have started a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the channel, your help would be greatly appreciated and much needed. And many thanks to Marcelo and Doug for your support. The link will be in the pinned comment and in the description. So a test drive is exactly what it sounds like. It's your ability to see how a class will play, level by level. In this case, I'll be going from levels 1 through 10. And along the way, I'm going to give you some choices that I would make that I think are optimal choices for this particular class. So it's not exactly a build and it's not exactly a guide, but it is build-ish and it is guide-ish. It's a test drive. Because playing a character is a big commitment, and you shouldn't have to make that commitment based simply on what you're guessing a class will play like, based on what you're reading, or how you're hearing people talk about it in build videos. So this is your chance to see how it'll play level by level. All right, so let me make a little confession here. I don't like monks. I never have liked monks. And there's a good reason for me not liking monks. Because monks have always been bad. I mean, bad. So even when I had a real Jones for it to play some kind of martial artist kind of a character, I never wanted to play it as a monk because they were just horrible. So I never, ever wanted to play a monk. Every edition, they've always tried to make the monk better and they fail, but not this time. This time, the monk is actually pretty darn good, and we're going to find out just how good it is as we go through this. All right, so we're going to get through this pretty quickly, I believe, because there's not a lot of decisions to have to make. It's the class is the class, and what I'm going to be talking about mostly are of the powers that are there, the ones that you should be focusing on. And how I would approach playing it, the way I view as being the optimal way of playing it. So for stats, I would go with 2 15s. I would buy 2 15s. I would get a 15 dexterity and a 15 wisdom. Put the +2 into dexterity and the +1 into wisdom. And then I'd probably get a 14 con and a 10. Personally, I would put it into charisma, but you're going to be dumping. You're going to have 2 weights and you'll have a 10. So I personally would dump strength and intelligence, but if you prefer to have a 10 intelligence or a 10 strength or whatever, that's entirely up to you. So you'll have a 17 dex, a 16 wisdom, and a 14 con. For the race, I'm going to say let's go with the Fire Goliath. Now, the Fire Goliath is going to give us several things. And I think the Goliath is clearly, I think, pretty much the optimal choice to play virtually any monk. There are some that are very, very close, but I just prefer the Goliath in this particular case. So the Goliath is going to give us a 35 base movement, which is nice. We're going to have the ability to grow into a large character once per day that lasts 10 minutes. Now, as we get into grappling and things like that, having that extra size is going to be a nice saver because it's going to mean that encounters where you couldn't normally grapple, you'll be able to actually grapple. And then for the Fire Goliath's power, they're going to be able to roll an extra d10 on damage rolls a number of times a day equal to their proficiency bonus. And that's a nice little extra bonus to damage. So this character, the character is going to be a very high damage dealer. It's going to be among the top tier of the damage dealers. It's going to be maybe just at the lowest rung of the high tier of the damage dealers, but it's right there. But it's also going to be exerting some control on the enemy, and you're going to have nice defensive abilities. And mobility and all that. So this is going to be a very interesting, fun character to play. Now, for our origin feat, we're going to take Magic Initiate. Now, I want to take Magic Initiate because I want Find Familiar. Now, we're going to be able to, I want the Familiar obviously for the utility, but in combat, I want it for that help action to get advantage on the first attack. That's going to be valuable in general, but in truth, you might, after level 4, you might be able to live without the Familiar if you really didn't want it, because we're going to be grappling a lot and we're going to have the feet. So we're going to be generating advantage from grappling quite a bit. But I like to get it started and make sure that I'm hitting and I'm getting that started right away. So that's why I'm taking the Familiar. The nice thing about Magic Initiate is that you can trade that spell out. So if you find that Find Familiar isn't necessary from your point of view, you can always trade it out later. But in general, I mean, having a Familiar is for general scouting and utility is a very, very nice thing to have in general. All right, so at level 1, we're going to get our martial arts die. We're going to get a d6 for that. So whenever we are attacking with unarmed attacks or with monk weapons, then we're going to be able to get a free bonus attack, unarmed strike, that'll do a d6 plus our modifier. So that's your baseline. That's what you're going to always get. But we're almost never going to use that other than here at first level and then a little bit at second level. And we also get unarmored defense, so we add our dex and our wisdom and add that to 10, and we get our armor class. So our armor class in this case would be starting at a 16, which is nice at first level. So here at first level, I'm going to suggest that you use a quarterstaff as your main weapon and that you go ahead and double hand that. So it'll do a d8. So you'll have a d8 attack and then you'll have your bonus unarmed attack from martial arts. So I'm going to always assume that we're going to have 3 combats in a day on average, and each combat would last about 4 rounds. Now, I'm going to give you the DPR. When I give you the DPR, this is assuming that you're getting the first attack coming with advantage from the Familiar. Also, you're going to have your Fire Giant bonus, which I'm adding in as well. That's the D10s that you're able to add in a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus in a day. So I'm going to assume that those are going to be used on crits. And you're going to be critting quite a bit because you're going to be attacking with advantage. You're going to have a lot of attacks. So you're going to be critting more than normal characters would. So your DPR here at level 1, with you using a quarterstaff and double-handing it with Fire Giant and the martial arts and all that added in, is 12.73 at first level, is great damage. There is no point as we go through this, there is no level where your damage will not be in that top tier. It may be at the bottom of that top tier, but it's always going to be in that possibility of being top tier. You could be the lead damage dealer of your party. It just depends on who's in your party. At level 2, we get Monk's Focus, we get Uncanny Metabolism, and we get Unarmored Movement. So we're going to get a plus 10 to our movement, and we already start with an extra 5 from being a Goliath, so we're going to have a 45 movement here at level 2. That's fantastic. Now, Uncanny Metabolism is why the monk will actually work so well, because you have a number of focus points equal to your level. So we're going to have 2 focus points. Anything that we do that is special generally requires a focus point to use. Uncanny Metabolism allows when you are rolling initiative, and if you don't have focus points left, you get them back, but you can only do that once in a day. You otherwise get them back at a short rest. So once again, if we are talking about a 3 combat a day average kind of a scenario with 1 short rest, then you're going to be able to spend all of your focus points in every combat. And I will be doing that as we go through this. So what you're going to want to do here at level 2, one of the things that you can spend a focus point on is Flurry of Blows. There's also Step of the Wind and Patient Defense. Those are very nice options to have. I'm going to be focusing here on Flurry of Blows. That is not to say that those other 2 options should never be used. They just are going to be things that I just don't think that you're going to use all that often. I think that Step of the Wind, you might have some utility for it. Outside of combat, very rarely, not like some of the other things I've dealt with recently with the monk. Both of them represent a matter of last resort kind of option. If you are in a situation, in a combat situation, and you are not in a good position, or things are just going very badly, or something suddenly just happened, an opponent came out of nowhere and you can't handle it, you need to just abandon flurry of blows and start use your focus points to get out of dodge and then reorganize. You'll be able to move anywhere you want on that map, and you should be playing positionally. But all that being said, I don't want to give up anything on those two options. I want to be putting everything onto offense whenever I possibly can. Here at level 2, that means we're going to have flurry of blows. So we only have 2 focus points. Each one buys us 1 flurry. A flurry is going to give us 1 extra unarmed attack. So here at second level, we'll get basically 3 attacks in 1 round. That's 2 unarmed attacks and then 1 with our quarterstaff. But because I'm assuming the average combat is going to last about 4 rounds, that means you're only going to get that for probably the first 2 rounds of combat. But because of that, our DPR jumps up again. So now our DPR on average would be 14.76. And at second level, that is great damage. At level 3, we're gaining our subclass feature, which is the Warrior of Mercy, of course, and we get deflect attacks. Now, deflect attacks is just an amazing ability, absolutely fantastic. So you are going to be able to spend your reaction, and when you are hit, you're going to be able to roll a d10 and then add your monk level and your dexterity modifier. Add all that together, and that's what you subtract from the damage you just took. So I'm in love with deflect attacks. There's also an ability I'm not going to recommend focusing on it because all of your focus points are going to be accounted for up through level 8. Every single one of them in every combat is going to be accounted for. After that, you're going to start having 1 to whatever excess focus points to be able to spend. I don't recommend doing it. I would just take the reaction, take the negation of damage. Now, the reason I don't like this other option using focus points, if you reduce the damage, what it is if you reduce the total damage to 0, if it was a melee attack, you can redirect someone you can choose another target within 5 feet of you, and that target has to make a dexterity saving throw, or they take 2 rolls of your martial art dice plus your dexterity modifier. Now, that may sound appealing because it's two dice, but I don't like the fact that they're getting a straight up dex saving throw. Now, there are going to be circumstances where you're going to have a creature that you know has a horrible dex modifier. And so in a scenario like that, it's probably going to be worth it to go ahead and do that. But your attacks are going to be having advantage very, very rapidly. You're going to be having advantage all the time. So I don't put a lot of emphasis here on this, but you should be aware that it is possible. And if it's a ranged attack, you can choose a target within 60 feet of you. It's the kind of thing that when it works, it's going to be great, and you're going to wonder why you don't do it all the time. I think that in general, I would avoid it. When the circumstance is right there for you, I think go ahead and take it if you know that you've got a poor dexterity modifier creature that you're targeting. But with our subclass, the Warrior of Mercy, we're going to get 2 different options that we can use, and both of them require focus points. There's the Hand of Harm, and there's the Hand of Healing. Now, overwhelmingly, I'm going to be referring to the Hand of Harm. That does not mean that the Hand of Healing is useless. It's just going to be very circumstantial. Both of them cost a focus point. The Hand of Harm, when you hit a creature, you're going to have the option of spending a focus point with the Hand of Harm. And if you do, you roll your martial art die and add your wisdom modifier to that damage roll. Now, and it's necrotic damage. What that means is that it's essentially like a mini version of what the Paladin Smite was like in 5th edition. Now, you can only do this once per turn, so you can't just dump all of your focus points on them in one particular shot. But in the sense that it doesn't cost you any form of action, it's similar to how the Paladin operated. So quite naturally, you're going to want to use this when you crit. But because here at 3rd level, it's doing we have 16s in both wisdom, well, we have +3s in both wisdom and in dexterity at this particular point at 3rd level. When you are in combat, instead of doing flurry of blows, and we have 3 focus points now, so 3 out of the 4 rounds, we can do something good. But because our first attack will have advantage and our second attack is going to be attacking normally, but between those 2, you're very likely to hit at least one of them, I would recommend using Hand of Harm over flurry of blows. The reason why is it does the same amount of damage, but it has a 100% hit chance because you've already hit. And that difference is a big difference in damage at this level. And this is really the only level that I'm going to be recommending you do it this way. Once we get to level 4, you're going to be using Flurry of Blows again. And then you're going to be building up to being able to use Hand of Harm. Now, Hand of Healing, you use a magic action, so an action, and a focus point, and you give healing of the same amount. So a roll of your martial art die plus your wisdom modifier. The problem I have with that is it's a combat action is, of course, well, it's a magic action. However, if you did use Flurry of Blows, you can replace one of the 2 unarmed attacks you get with that action. You don't have to expend another focus point for it, and you don't have to expend the magic action. So in that sense, it's great. And it's the range of touch. So you could end up doing this to yourself. You could end up doing it to a friendly target that's nearby. I would use this only in emergencies. If your hit points have dropped dramatically low, it's probably going to be worth it to you to do that, and you'll still have 2 attacks. And at 3rd level, that's quite good. So it's going to definitely be useful to use for yourself. If somebody else had dropped, sure, I would feel obligated as a player to pick them up if I could. So a very flexible kind of option here for this character. Really, really nice. These are the 2 things that you get that are really the only thing that matter. We're going to get a level 6 ability that I like quite a bit, but it pales in comparison to what these 2 things do, in my opinion. Now, we also do gain proficiency with 2 skills. We get Insight and we get Medicine, and we get proficiency with the Herbalism kit. Now, Insight is really a good skill. I mean, and people lie to you all the time in Dungeons and Dragons, so having Insight is really nice as a bonus. So here at level 3, still using the quarterstaff, and using 3 out of the 4 rounds using your focus points to do Hand of Harm, and then again with your 2 uses of the Fire Giant on crits, you're going to be at about 17.5 in DPR, and that's very, very high. So here at 4th level, we're going to get our ASI, and we're going to take the grappler feat. So that's going to bump our dexterity up to 18. And with the grappler, with attack actions, with unarmed strikes that are coming out of our attack action, we're going to be able to it's punch and grab. We're going to be able to have both options of being able to do damage and grapple. So we're getting rid of the quarterstaff at this point so that we are always going to have that option available to us. And why? Because any creature that is grappled by us, we gain advantage on. And that's really why we're taking it. And of course, a grappled creature has restraints on them. They have a speed of 0 at that point. You're exerting some control effects as well. And a little bit later, we're going to be exerting a debuff on our opponent as well. So we have a little bit of control options, and we can even move the target that we have grappled. So there's things that we can do that aren't just damage. But we're also doing a lot of damage. So it's a very nice combination to have. So once we're at this place, we're going to be picking a target that we want to get to. We're going to be able to get to them because of our movement ability. And remember, once per day, when you become giant-sized, you're going to be able to have an extra 10 feet of movement. So here we have a 45. That's going to be going up by 10 more for 10 minutes a day. So 55 is incredibly fast. And then through the monk, we're gaining an extra 5 at level 6 and another 5 at level 10. So a very mobile character. So in those scenarios, at level 10, you're going to, when you're in giant form, you're going to have a 65 movement speed, and your normal movement speed will be 55. But that's at 10th level. But at 6th level, you're getting that extra 5, and that's also good. Very, very mobile character. So the point is you're going to be able to target the character, the creature that you really want to hit. You've grappled them, you've got them under control, and now you have advantage on them. They're at your mercy. But now at level 4, because of the changes in how this works, and we have 4 focus points now, so that means that we'll be able to do a focus point every round. We're going to not use the Way of Harm or the Hand of Harm. We're going to actually be using Flurry of Blows. And our DPR here at level 4 is now 20.2. But when you add in the Goliath with crits, it's 22.03. That's incredibly good damage at level 4. Incredibly good damage with the control effects given to you now by Grappler, and in a couple levels, and even a nice debuff effect. And at level 5, we get extra attack and we get slow fall. Slow fall, falling in D&D happens. How often does it happen? Not all the time, but it's not. It's somewhere between uncommon and rare, I would say. But now, because we are 5th level, we have 5 focus points. So we're using 4 for flurries, and 1 in the round, 1 in the combat will be used for the Way of Harm. And because our proficiency modifier has jumped to +3, we now have 3 uses of the Goliath. So when you add all this in, meaning you're getting 4 attacks, 2 from your attack action and 2 from the flurry of blows, your DPR, when you figure it all in, add everything in with crits and everything else, it's 36.65. Now, I should point out something here about this. There's going to be the odd time where things don't go perfectly well for you. Maybe the combat goes an extra round or 2 longer than normal, in which case your DPR is going to obviously go backwards significantly. You're still getting your extra attack from extra attack, and you're still always going to have the extra attack from your martial art die. And at level 6, we get Physician's Touch. So this is a Warrior of Mercy subclass feature. So when you're using your Hand of Harm, when you use it, you're going to be able to inflict the poisoned condition on your enemy. They do not get a saving throw for this. And it only lasts 1 round. But you have 6 focus points now at 6th level, so that means that 2 out of the 4 rounds in every combat, you're going to be able to inflict, for 2 rounds, you're going to have them with the poison condition, and there's nothing they can do about it. Now, that being said, there is poison immune creatures, and they're pretty much, you'll know who they are. I've talked about this many times because of the pseudo-dragon and that kind of thing. Undead constructs, oozes, those kind of things, they're probably going to be immune to poison. But for everybody else, it's an amazing ability to have, just to be able to give it to them and there's nothing they can do about it. And when you use Hand of Healing, you're going to be able to, in addition to the healing, be able to lift a condition from them. So blinded, paralyzed, stunned, poisoned, or deafened. That's actually a pretty darn nice suite of options. Some of those conditions can just be completely, obviously paralyzed. If that happens, you should always be using this in a situation like that. And now our DPR has gone up again because we have yet another use of harm. So we're going to have a DPR now of 39.2. And I should point out, of course, we are rolling a D8 for our martial die. I forgot to mention that at 5th level. So at 5th level, we're getting a D8, which was already included in the DPR that I quoted you. And at level 7, we get evasion. Now, evasion is just an amazingly good ability. It will definitely come up. It kind of just depends on your DM. Some DMs really love throwing area of effects at the entire party. Others don't like doing it at all. But it will come up regardless. If your DM is in the latter group, it's still going to come up at some point. But it is one of those things that could be coming up a lot. And you're going to feel great that you have evasion, but you're always going to feel great that you have it when it does come up. Very useful ability. I particularly love evasion. And now, of course, we also have 7 focus points here at 7th level, which means that we're going to be able to use Hand of Harm 3 times in a combat, so our DPR has jumped yet again to 41.07, and that is great. At 8th level, we're getting our ASI, and we're obviously getting 8 focus points, so we're going to be using we're going to be using 4, every round now we're going to have a use of Hand of Harm. Our ASI is going to be going into Dexterity, so our Dexterity will be 20. And this jumps our DPR to 46.25. Folks, very good damage. And at level 9, of course, our proficiency bonus jumps to +4. So now we're getting 4 uses of that extra damage from the Goliath. And at 9th level, we also gain acrobatic movement. And I have a big soft spot in my heart for powers like this. It's just so simple and so beautiful. You can, during your turn, you can move across vertical surfaces or across liquid without falling. This is very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and if you have never seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, shame on you. Go see it right away. It's an amazing movie. It's that feel all over. Being able to walk on water, being able to walk up a wall. Fantastic. Wonderful. Love it. Mwah. Not only an amazing utility power, but just great style. Fantastic. Love it. And now, because we do have 9 focus points, now we get into sort of the fun time here. So at 5th level, we got Stunning Strike as an option. We did get Stunning Strike at 5th level, and I didn't really talk about it there because I don't really intend on using it until we get to about to here. That doesn't mean it's not a good ability. It's a Constitution saving throw, and it does have a nice effect. Even if they make the save, they still have problems, and that's great. But I'd rather have that. I'd rather make sure I get the damage in. So now, here at this point, we're going to have the option of doing Flurry of Blows, doing Hand of Harm once every turn. And now we'll have the option in once in a combat of dropping a Stunning Strike. Now, if you don't want to do the Stunning Strike, or you don't think it's going to work against that target, or it's not going to be particularly valuable, like I said, even if they make the save, you're still going to gain like advantage on them, and their speed is halved. So definitely good things. But again, I'm not worried about the speed thing because you're probably grappling them, and you're going to have advantage anyway. So I don't think, for the way this character is playing out, that it's going to be all that particularly useful. But if you do Stunning Strike, the stun condition is really, really brutal. So having the ability to pull that off once in a combat is an amazingly powerful thing to have, but it is a Constitution saving throw. So there's that problem. And like I said, even though it's very nice that you get those bonuses, you get some bonuses even if they fail this, even if they make the saving throw. The way you're built, you really don't need them per se. So it's definitely worth throwing a point at them to see if you can get it. The other thing you can do, though, with that point is at the end of combat is just to use if you've taken any damage, go ahead and use that Hand of Healing on yourself or on somebody else. So, you're just brushing it off your shoulder. After the combat, you're restoring yourself or helping out an ally. I would tend to think that I would generally be using the healing at the end of most combats, but I would definitely try the Stunning Strike in the right opportunities. So things like casters that may have a Constitution, but not like this ginormous Constitution, those would be great ones that have so high priority targets like that. But so many creatures have high Constitution saving throws that I would rather just think that I would probably just want to have the ability to recover at the end of a combat. Now, our DPR goes up a little bit because we got that extra use of the Goliath ability. So our DPR is now 47.16. And at 10th level, we get Heightened Focus. Now, when we have Heightened Focus, when we use Flurry of Blows, we're getting 3 and not 2. So 5 attacks every round, and we have 10 focus points. We also get Self-Restoration. Now, with Self-Restoration, at the end of each of your turns, you're going to be able to just shrug off a condition. So you can shrug off Charmed, Frightened, or Poisoned. And you don't need to eat or drink, essentially, because foregoing food or drink doesn't give you levels of exhaustion. So, it's not to say that you don't need to eat or drink anymore, but from a mechanical punishment standpoint, you don't need to. Now, the other 2 abilities from Heightened Focus, you gain some abilities with Patient Defense that are added in for temporary hit points, and with Step of the Wind, you're able to take another person along with you, and that's all very good and well, but let's face facts. We're going to be using this for Flurry of Blows to get 3 attacks. And with all of this, our DPR jumps to 55.71 at 10th level. And it's going to go up again by about 5 more points at 11th level because we're going to get our martial art die to jump up to a D10. This is great damage. And like I said earlier in the video, your movement speed is now jumped up to, you're getting a plus 20 at level 10. it was started at plus 10, then at level 6 it was plus 15, and now it's plus 20. You started with a plus 5 from being a Goliath, and you can always add in an extra 10 from being a Goliath, so you by going large. So you've got movement all over the place. It's a very, you've got an amazing defensive ability with deflect blows, the ability to shrug off conditions that are going to be a problem for you or anybody else. So you're a character that does great damage, is mobile, has great defenses, has things like evasion that are just kind of thrown in there for free that are great, wonderful abilities. And the ability to heal if you needed to heal, or to heal others if you needed to. And those abilities get better at level 11 as well. And the ability to debuff an opponent strictly from the subclass and then through the feat to be able to grapple at will and generate advantage throughout all these attacks and just maintain this very high DPR. So it really is, the monk is finally worth playing. If I were to start a new character right now, I might play a monk because I never have. And I very well might take the opportunity. If I were starting a new character right now, I might think about doing the monk. It does have style, and it's mechanically now where it's desirable to play. All right. Well, that's all I've got. If you enjoyed the video, please like, please share, please subscribe. And if you're stuck and you don't know where to go, you can always search for a secret door. Until next time, I cast bless on all of you.